Welcome to The Pivot Point, stories of courage, resilience, and reinvention. I'm your host, Jessica McGann, coach, producer, and creative, whose mission is to normalize the human experience, ignite the soul, and move you from feeling limited to limitless. Stories connect us, and my hope is that within this series, you will find at least one story that resonates with you on a deep, personal level. One that speaks to your soul or your current situation that will motivate you to keep moving forward, inspire you to make bold, brave choices in your own life, and help you feel less alone in the process. In this episode, I speak with Corbie Mitleid, who has survived breast cancer not once, not twice, but 3 times. Corbie grew up with a message that her appearance was equivalent to her worth, and that she needed to look a certain way if she wanted love and acceptance. These societal pressures and messages led her to feeling very uncomfortable in her body for a majority of her life. In this interview, we explore how multiple cancer diagnoses and many major surgeries took Corbie from hating her body to total body acceptance. Corbie is the writer and visionary in a completely medical family, and she has always made her own path rather than take the one cut out for her by others. After leaving an Ivy League university after 2 years, Corbie struck out to find where joy and purpose lived, regardless of what she was told she ought to do. After 2 marriages, which didn't last, and a constant search for the partner who understood, a succession of jobs, a series of spiritual paths, out of the blue, breast cancer. And not once, but 3 times. Life became a roller coaster with no breaks, but through it all, she learned the value of the examined life, meeting challenges and always asking the next question, facing each new situation with strength, courage, and humor. Today, Corbie brings a full toolbox to her job as a beacon of manifestation and vision for her clients. Corbie's career now spans the globe with clients worldwide, and her talents as an intuitive are featured in best-selling books. Her clients treasure her attitude of "I'm not special and you can do what I do." Corbie has an incredible story of self-love and body acceptance to share with you all today. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Pivot Point podcast. Today I have with me Corbie Mitleid. Hi, Corbie. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Now, before we dive into the pivotal moment that changed your life, I love that fun fact that your name is a chosen name.
Yes, it is. I call it my Elton John name. You know, Elton John knew that Reginald Dwight was not going to make it for rock and roll. Corbie is Gaelic for raven, and ravens are my baby birds. They're also deeply magical. Raven is like Coyote the Trickster for a lot of Northwest First Nations tribes. Mitleid is the German word for compassion, and it reminds me why I do the work I do.
You do some pretty cool work. You're a psychic and a tarot card reader. Can you tell me a little bit about your work?
Sure. Actually, a certified tarot master, which is the fact that I've been reading since I was a senior in high school in 1973. And yes, my darlings, that tells you how old I am. Past life specialist, psychic medium, and channel. The way I explain it to people, because they always say, how did you decide what you wanted to do? When the universe hands you your draft notice and says, hello, you're working for us, and you accept it, you go inside and spirit kind of looks at what you've got. What's my background? Theater major at Brown University, actress in New York. I understand characters and stories. Words are my drug of choice. I've written 3 books, so I can tell those stories. And I have adored history since I was a wee thing. So for me, past lives are fully fleshed out, and I see them like a movie instead of just, well, it's a long skirt and a big hat in front of a fancy building. I can say, hobble skirt, picture, hat, that's the Brandenburg Gate. So we're talking Berlin in 1911 or 12.
That's really incredible. And I like what you said about the importance and power of stories. Because that's what this podcast is really about, is connecting people through our stories and helping people feel less alone in the journey. And I can imagine that's a lot of what you do through your work, is people are looking for some sort of guidance or some sort of reminder that they're here and everything is happening for a reason. Do you find
Yes.
that comes up in your sessions?
All the time. I mean, people come to me for four things. What I call the everyday tour bus: house, car, job, kids, finances. Okay, gotcha. Put me here. Now what? Or past lives. Who was I in 1642 Belgium, and why am I afraid of pancakes? Or I want to speak to my spirit guide, Binky, or how's dead Aunt Mabel. I mean, that's really all it is when you're going for standard readings. But a lot of it is because people have always been told, you're not the expert, you can't trust it.
Mm.
So, I mean, how many self-help books have we bought? 6,942 each. And the person who's got your answers is you. Maybe somebody else can point some things out, but you have your own answers.
Yes, completely. That's a big part of what I do as a coach is asking people questions to explore
Mm-hmm.
what's happening for them and what the right path forward is for them, because your path in
Yes.
life is different than mine. And it's not about
Mm-hmm.
assuming. I love that that's very much a correlation of both of our work. But
Yes, it is.
as we dive into stories, let's hear a little bit about your story and why you're here on this podcast. And before we get to that pivotal moment, why don't you
Mm-hmm.
paint me a little bit of a picture of your life before we get to the juice of this big pivot?
Okay. Everybody in my family was medical. Dad was a internist cardiologist. My brother is pediatric pulmonology, and my mother was an RN. Me, I was the writer, actress, hippie rebel. I could have stood on the dining room table and recited Shakespeare. They wouldn't have gotten me. Um, so I was always trying to find out who I was. I came in karmically to understand women are worth more than their bodies. So part of learning to do that is I basically, from about the time I was 11, I had a Dolly Parton figure. Honest to God, you put a brunette wig on Dolly, and that was me. So between a very dysfunctional, abusive mother and that body, I was given the message, you're only worth what you look like. And going back to the self-help books, my first one, when I was 13, I remember the first paragraph. Judy has a groovy wardrobe. Remember, this is the 60s. Her makeup is fab and her hair is far out. But nobody likes Judy because Judy's fat. Right there. Hundreds of thousands of American teenagers were told, you are worthless except for what you look like. And I bought it. So something pivotal happened when I was 16, a particular kind of mental abuse with my mother, which set me on my path of all I'm worth is my body. Trust no one. You're never allowed to say no. Your body is your transactional ticket. That's it. And it made life very difficult. A couple of divorces, rape, poverty, other abuse. Along the way, I got cancer. The first bout was in 1989 when I was acting in New York. 4 lumpectomies and radiation. Still had them.
How old
Then
were
in
you at that
2000,
time? So sorry to interrupt,
uh,
but how old were you?
34, 34, out of the blue, not in the family like that, nothing. Um, in 2000, I got Paget's, which is a skin cancer from the radiation that they did. So more stuff. They were misshapen, scarred, but they were still there. Finally met the right guy to marry and married him in 2002, but was still very much the body is all I'm worth. So basically, upstairs said, look, we need you down there to teach. So we're going to remove the problem. 2004, I got my third bout of cancer, but it was a second primary, which turned the danger clock back to 0. But the doctors said, okay, 3 strikes, you're out. We're taking the rack, we're taking the ovaries, and we're taking you from this Dolly Parton figure with the libido of a 17-year-old boy to a fat fire plug with permanent side effects, and we're going to scar you so much internally you'll never have sex again. Suck it up. Well, did I go home and cry? Yes, because I'm normal. But then I knew that I had to find at least 3 reasons to be okay with it. Number 1 is you don't have them, you can't get cancer there. Number 2 is the top half is not going to get slammed in the refrigerator door at the doctor's, and every woman listening knows what I'm talking about. And 3, implants means I'll be perky till I'm 96. Okay. Got out of Mass General in 3 days, shopped for a bathing suit in 5. That was 19 years ago. And my husband said, were they gorgeous? Oh, yeah, but I married you, not them. And we are still married, even though the marriage looks absolutely nothing like what we had expected it to when we had been married 18 months before that happened.
Wow. That is an incredible journey that you have been through. And it seems like you really were able to eventually find those silver linings, the perky breast till I'm whatever age old.
96. Yep.
96. Is that's the expected lifetime for Corbie, 96?
Actually, when I was 11, there was a gypsy on the Ventnor Boardwalk that said I was going to live until I'm 89. I now say at 89, I will see with the universe, do I want to extend the contract? I leave it up to me.
Gotcha. So let's go back a little bit into your story. And how did you start to know that something was wrong?
In terms of what? The story?
Your
Me?
health. No, nothing's wrong with you, but like your health. When did you start to notice that something might be up with your health?
Actually, this is back in the 80s when I was a Mary Kay consultant. And I was at the seminar in Texas. And they were doing free mammograms. And they pulled me aside and said, you got something. So then I went and got biopsied. And the doctors called, and it was a guy named Tom Smith, a really good guy. And he said, boy, you really hate being normal, don't you? I said, you found it, didn't you? He said, both sides. I said, okay. I knew I was not going to die from that. The only time I had to look that in the face was the 3rd time, because I didn't know, had it traveled, what had it done. Luckily, it was what they call T1N0, stage 1, hadn't gone anywhere. Lop off the rack and you got it. But I do sense very deeply that whatever takes me out is not going to be cancer. Because, second primary, they went back and said, we need you down there to teach. So we're going to remove the problem. And the problem was what I looked like, having a figure, not the rest of me.
So let me just go back there. You just clarifying, you don't believe that they took the rack for medical reasons?
Oh, they did.
Okay.
Upstairs is who I'm saying.
Oh,
we need you down there to teach. Sorry. Yes. The upstairs, the universe, higher self, the gang.
Glad I clarified.
Oh, yeah. No. Doctors are merely tab A into slot B. I often say that the actual oncological surgeon had the personality of a desiccated turnip, but my plastic surgeon was Madame Artiste and Doc Miracle because she was and she made him. So
when you received that diagnosis, because as you mentioned earlier, this was a really big journey of body acceptance. Would you say that you were at a point at that time that you did like your body before this diagnosis? Did you ever experience that kind of love for your body before this?
I was grateful that it got me my husband, but it drove me. I didn't drive it. It's, absolutely monogamous with my husband, but you never say no. You do what they want. And it's because you have that body. It's expected. How can you possibly say no? You have no right.
So it sounds like the body wasn't even yours.
No, I was driving it. Basically, if you remember in Men in Black, they flip the guy's face open and there's this little alien at the levers.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
the alien. Okay. Because when you want to go in the deep why, from what I understand from my work as past life specialist and working with Robert Schwartz in his book series, most of the time I come in as male. I'm not a nasty male, but I'm a typical male. So when I come in a female body, that's when I do the tough work. Last life was Italian American in Chicago, messed around on my husband, had a miscarriage. The Catholic nuns in the hospital, I was so distraught. I told one of them what happened. So when I got sepsis, they just shrugged and said, "Oh, well, that's God's judgment." And they let me die in filth, anger, and agony. And once I got that past life, I understood why at age 13, I knew, and this is before any of the psychic stuff happened, that for me, getting pregnant means you have a 9-month parasite and your life is over. What 13-year-old gets that? But it was the message that in this life, I needed to re-raise myself. I was born without the mommy gene, and that's okay.
It's
Kids are
totally okay.
wildly important, and if you want them, have them. If you don't hope you like them when they get here.
Is that associated, you mentioned earlier, to just having like a karmic understanding
Mhm.
of what was happening? Is that a part of, would you say a part of that?
Yeah, I think that the upstairs crew, my higher self, was setting it up so that when you're a mom, the vast majority of your life is dedicated to your kids for the rest of it. You're never just you again. And for me to A, teach, and B, get through everything that I had put on my karmic plate, there was no way I could be an adequate mother.
Mm.
My own mother was an alcoholic cross addicted with barbiturates who said, "I think I'm wonderful. You don't deserve me." I had no idea what a good mother would look like. And I wasn't going to experiment on whatever came through me.
Mhm.
Besides, if I thought I was fat, if I gained 2 pounds, how was I going to adjust myself to the idea of pregnancy? Wouldn't happen. I would have thrown myself off a roof. So upstairs just went, "Not this lifetime, pumpkin. It's okay."
That's some beautiful self-awareness too, of just knowing like I'm incapable of giving the love and attention that a child needs because I need to give that love and attention to myself in this lifetime. Whereas
Mhm,
other people might choose having children as a way to heal that part of themselves. And then that's
mhm.
just a completely different healing journey because children can awaken a lot of that
And
inside
it's
of us.
not wrong. That's
And
the
it's
thing.
not.
When I do my sentence of passion work with people and I explain you have to do some of your own work, what things in life have really changed you? Let's take the idea of money. If you come in and you're very poor as a child, it doesn't tell you it's got to be this trajectory. It could be that you are so desperate for money that you do everything possible to get as rich as you can, or you decide, let's see how simple life can be so money is no longer as important. Or you spend your life getting tons of money for other people so they don't go through the pain you did. One trip trigger, 3 ways of handling it, 3 ways of healing. All of them good.
All of them valid.
Exactly.
And I sadly, I don't think your journey with body image is necessarily a unique one in the sense that so many women have battled with this sense of body dysmorphia and
Yes.
shamefulness. Even
Yes.
myself, like when you look back, I'm 33 now, so I was very vulnerable in like the early 2000s, which was another very you need to be stick thin in order to be widely accepted, and I see it in how my mother spoke to me and how
Hmm.
and what I saw in this world. And so for you to have that um level of self-consciousness and then be told we're taking so much away from you that you believed at that time made you beautiful and worthy physically. Do you remember what it felt like to wake up after those surgeries, or what it was like to go into them?
Well, going into them was very funny. And for
Oh
that, you
yeah.
may thank, yes, and for that, you may thank the cocktail of uh, fentanyl and Versed, which they give you pre-op and put you out at the corner of left field and Space Cadet. Number one, they forgot to tell me to take out my contact lenses. So for 15 minutes, I was like this, and they were apparently having hysterics. And when I got into the operating room, I looked at the oncological turnip surgeon, and said, "You got 3 hours for the demolition work," and looked at Madame Artiste and said, "And you got 3 hours for the front end alignment. I want to be out in 6." Boom. I woke up, and the first thing, my husband looked at me and smiled and said, "Honey, you still look like a girl." Because they took me from a 44 triple D to like 38D. Still sizable, but not what I had to deal with. Interestingly, for the first 6 months after the surgery, I had the figure of my dreams. I could wear size 12 sundresses without a bra. Oh my God, who could think? But after that, of course, they put me on tamoxifen, and then they took out the ovaries, which ballooned the figure. And yeah, I'm still getting used to that. Um, everyone looks at me and says, "You don't look 68," but I remember what I used to look like. And so I'm gradually getting to the idea that, yeah, I look like everybody's grandmother, and that is life, and nobody escapes it unless you can afford $60 billion worth of Botox and plastic surgery.
Mm.
I remind myself that what is most valuable about me are my brains, my voice, my ability to write, my ability to communicate. The looks are just a package now. They are a car. And no, I'm not a Maserati. I'm a Chevy. Okay.
My partner calls them our meat suits. He's a deeply spiritual person himself. He's like, these are
Mm-hmm.
just our meat suits. This is just how we exist here.
That's right. That's right.
Um, and what I really picked up on that is you have a great partner who obviously loves and adores you. And that support, I can imagine, meant the world during such a difficult process.
It
Our
did.
support
It did.
team makes a big difference. But
It
then
does.
also you said something that I think is really important to point out of other people could love and appreciate your body and could tell you that it's all great. But for you, it was such a dramatic change that it takes a
Mhm.
process to really learn to love that new shape, even if it's still beautiful and other people can recognize it as beautiful. It's a difficult journey for us ourselves to step into that new vision.
Yes. And part of it is having no kids. You're always just 30 in your brain. You're the biggest kid in the room. So who's screwed with the calendar when you look at yourself in the mirror? When you're a parent, you've got all of those milestones. And so you are forced to recognize how the years go by. So another challenge.
There you go. I love that you look at these hardships in your life as challenges and learnings. And I can hear in just the ease that you speak of this how quick you are to pick up on those learnings and those positive that you've taken. I can tell you've really done a tremendous journey through this process already. And when you were in this process of cancer treatments and healing, did your spirituality and trust that there is more to this, that we're supposed to be learning here, did that ever waver?
Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm sure it did. I'm human. I'm
Yeah.
human. There were days I got scared. There were days I said it wasn't fair. Um, there were days I was terrified. Oh my God, was I going to have to go through chemo? Thank God, and knock wood, I didn't, and I never will.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing was I knew that it wasn't just, the black thumb of fate going, yeah, that there had to be a reason, and I had to find out why, and I had to make use of it. Otherwise, what was the point?
Hope is like one of the most powerful emotions we can have. Hope that there's something more that you're supposed to be doing or learning or gaining from those experiences. It's really
And
incredible.
defiance and curiosity.
Yeah, you
All
speak
of
on
that was
defiance.
part of it.
I was reading that on your website about how defiance is that kind of like determination, like I will not back down, I will not stop, or do you have a different definition for that?
Oh yeah, watch me. That's the definition of defiance. Oh yeah, watch me. Thank
That's
you
your
for sharing. You may
affirmation.
think that right, right. It's funny. I teach people how to find their sentence of passion and their motto. And my own deep down motto is a quote from Robert Hyland's book, Time Enough for Love. In life, moderation is for monks. Take big bites.
Really indulge in this life is what I'm getting from
If
that.
you're going to do it, baby, do it. Don't apologize. Don't ask permission. Just This is where you want to be. Get after it.
How long did it take you to start seeing the positives, and the silver linings and the learnings from this
Well,
pivotal moment?
I got the honeymoon period for those first 6 months. Um, as I eased later into the body changing, and you like this hair, it used to be 3 times as much, um, I began to shift away from what do I look like today? Always it was in the mirror, just like with my mother. She always weighed herself to the day she
Mm.
died because for her, fat was disgusting. Fat was ugly. That's why she forced me to go to Weight Watchers at age 11 when they had only been around for 2 months and they still had legal and illegal foods. Ketchup was illegal. Couldn't use ketchup. I mean, dumb stuff. God rest Gene Nidich. Um, every day is a learning point. Every day you can say, what am I X about? Why am I X about that? What do I think would happen if I stopped being X about that? X being whatever emotion you're wrestling with.
So what I'm hearing is you're aware that it's a choice.
Yes,
It's a
it is.
choice what kind
It
of
is.
thoughts you're going to allow enter your mind
Yep.
that day.
Yeah. I didn't have a choice about the surgery. I mean, they were not going to let me get away with
Yes.
anything. And I was literally said, we are doing this in 3 weeks. There was no, I'm sorry. This is why we called the guy a turnip. He walked in, tossed the x-rays in front of me and said, well, biopsy said cancer on 2 sides. You're getting a double mastectomy. I'll arrange it for 3 weeks. Here's the name of a plastic surgeon, and walked out. That was it.
So cold. There's like no empathy
Absolutely.
in that statement at all.
There was no, oh, no. But he knew that he was a doctor at one of the greatest hospitals in America. And I was the meat sack with a number and a diagnosis. The plastic surgeon, as I said, um, everybody who's ever used her has loved her. I remember that I had to have them replaced back in 16. They age out. Um, and on her examining room wall, somebody had done a shadow box with a little fake tiara that said Queen of the Tatas because she cared so much about her patients. Absolutely.
And what a world of a
So
difference that makes when someone shows you compassion in those moments.
absolutely. Absolutely. Unfortunately, she is now in Chicago and I can no longer use her if I have to get them replaced. But that's okay.
At
That's
least
okay.
she's still helping many, many people, hopefully.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She is just the best of the best.
In your application for the podcast, you
Mhm.
labeled yourself the cancer dancer. What does it
Oh, yeah.
mean to be a cancer dancer?
I did not fight cancer because what you fight fights back. And I am not a survivor because I hear that word and I think of somebody hanging on by teeth and toenails. I'm a cancer dancer, which means I found out how graceful I could be under pressure, avoided getting my toes stepped on, and got off the dance floor in one piece. And when I give women that idea, they love it. It totally shifts the narrative for them. I also remind them that they're living the examined life. This is happening and I hate it and I don't want it, but I can't get out of it. First thing, what can I learn from it? Second, for me, because I teach, is what can I teach with it? And the next thing is next. There are too many people that I know who they had colon cancer 15 years ago and they welcome and say, hi, my name is Susan and I'm a cancer survivor. That was 15 years ago. Um, see this? That was me in 1973. I was the state homemaker for New Jersey, Betty Crocker homemaker of tomorrow. I don't talk about it anymore. That was 50 years ago. Move on. Don't stay stuck in your story.
So it's again, it goes back to that choice of how you see
Mm-hmm.
it. Are you going to be a victim in this, or are you going to be a survivor? I love the
No,
question.
not a survivor.
My
Victim or
apologies.
volunteer. Victim or volunteered.
What do you mean by volunteer? Because I think a
On
lot of people will hear that and be like, who the heck would volunteer for cancer?
This is where you have to understand the difference between your soul and your incarnation. Jess, Corbie, this recipe is one and done. We will never be down here again. The soul is the one that runs through these incarnations so it can learn. And when people look at me and go, I say, okay, let's take the actor Matt Smith. Okay. Matt was the 11th doctor on Doctor Who. He was my doctor. When he hung up the suspenders and the bow tie for 2 seasons, he became Prince Philip in the first 2 seasons of The Crown. He hung up the naval suit from The Crown and then became this whack job over in House of the Dragon. Matt Smith is like the higher self. The doctor, the prince, and the whack job are incarnations that don't talk to each other, don't have to be the same person, but are made actionable by that actor. That's why, on some level, I am an actor living out this so that the soul can learn, because the soul is in a white room place. What does that mean? Think about being in a white room. White carpet, white piano with white keys, white curtains, white furniture, and you're in white. You would have no word for purple. Purple does not exist for you. The Eskimos have 200 words for snow, or not one for palm tree. It doesn't exist. For our souls to understand these things that are outside of the unity, they need to send us down to a world where there is duality. And when you realize that this is not happening because you were bad or you have bad luck or you're evil, it gives you a little more strength. I mean, would it be nice to have had a life without it? Yeah. But it is what it is. There's no sense in saying, it's not fair. Whine, whine, whine. You know, when people say, I don't get that, I say, all right, let's look at Ryan White. Ryan White was the kid in the late 80s, early 90s who got AIDS from a blood transfusion, but people didn't understand it. So they treated his family like pariahs. It was awful. But then he met Elton John, who had become very close to the family, played at Ryan's funeral, got sober off all of his addictions because Ryan inspired him, and then created the Elton John AIDS Foundation, which has raised over $500 million for HIV and AIDS research worldwide because he knew Ryan. So instead of the old way of saying, Ryan White must have had bad karma, he must have been awful in other lives, you realize that his soul said, look, short life, painful life, but look what we can accomplish in the world. Ryan's karma was that of service, and he was a courageous soul. Big difference.
Courageous soul. I like that statement. I think we're all courageous souls. Like life is hard. And if you're watching this podcast, I hope you feel less alone in all the struggles, because we all have them. And I if you could slowly go through those 3 questions that you bring to yourself, because I think they're great ways to get yourself into a place of post-traumatic growth.
Yes. What am I X about? X is angry, depressed, fearful, sad, dull, confused, whatever. Why am I
Identify the
X about
emotion.
that? Right. Why am I X about that? And when you just go, I don't know, look at yourself and say kindly, if you had to guess. Because when we tell ourselves, if you had to guess, you'll get the answer out. And then it's always, what do you think would happen if I stopped being upset about this? Because of the way, frankly, we were brought up, we were negated, slammed on, not listened to, told how we should feel. It's about women. We're 4, and there's a plate of cookies, and there's a big one, and we're smart. We know that has more cookie than the little one, and we reach for it, and our mother slaps our hand and goes, bad, you're selfish. So you're not even going to get a cookie. And she gives it to your little brother who eats it at you. And then she compounds it with saying, besides, girls who eat cookies get fat, and nobody likes a fat girl. Do you really want the cookie? We are taught by the time we are 5 or 6, if we want anything, we're wrong, we're bad, we'll be punished, and we have to watch somebody else get it. Which is why so many women come to me empty nest, postmenopausal. And I said, well, what do you want? I don't know. If you had to guess, I really don't know. It's because wanting has been beaten out of them and they think it's alien and they have no right. I'm here to tell you once you can have every want, try not to make them needs. If I want 100 things and I'll get 50 of them, I feel pretty good. If I need 100 things and only get 50 of them, I feel pretty bad. See how that one word can change things? Words are keys, words are magic.
Words are magic. That's why they call it spelling, which is one of my favorite
Mhm.
things to
Yes,
say.
indeed. I love that. I love that.
And what I like about your steps and your question steps is it has you identify the feeling that you are experiencing in that moment rather than just allowing yourself to feel it, but you identify and label it, which is
Mhm,
huge in the processing state. And then you're also allowing yourself time to get out of the emotional state of the brain and into the more logical state of the brain, calm down that amygdala and go, okay, how do I want to move forward from this? And
mhm,
what I'm consistently hearing in this conversation and in your transformation is how you really lean and identify that you have choice. You have
mhm.
choice in how you're going to look at this moment. And as humans, we're meaning making machines. We add meaning to everything. And it seems like you
Yes,
actively choose meaning that is going to serve how you want to show up in this world
exactly so.
and the work you want to be doing. You're actively, like, I know one of your
Yes.
questions is, how can I use this moment to teach others? So,
Mhm.
with that in mind, what do you feel you learned or grew or took away from having so much of your body taken from you from cancer?
Mhm.
How has this transformed your life for the better?
It's given me good teaching materials. It has forced me out of my own head and out into the world. It has given me the ability to reach others because, I'm not a size 2 blonde with a trust fund. I'm not. Um, I'm 68. The body is battered. It has not been an easy life. I've been there, done that, sold the franchise. If you come to me with these things, I am not going to patronize you. I'm not going to be condescending. I'm in the trenches with you. And that makes a huge difference.
It makes a massive difference to feel like someone understands what you have been through.
Hmm.
So,
Yes.
what would you want to say to anyone listening who might be struggling with their own body image, or perhaps they are going through a similar process as you, getting a mastectomy or having their body modified from labor and delivery to cancer treatments, and they're in the midst of really struggling to love their new form? What would you want them to know in this moment?
Remember that the body isn't you. No matter what the world tells you, um, it's like there are still people in my family who think I'm a charlatan and a fake and a crazy person who steals people's money. Even after I've been doing this for half a century, 30 years of it professionally, and I've read 30,000 people. So all you do is you look at them and you say, thank you for sharing. You may think that if you wish, and then you go do what the hell you need to do. And it's the same thing with your body. When it tells you, you don't look like you used to, thank you for sharing. You may think that if you wish, I'm going to be over here
Wow.
doing, living.
Yes. Thank you so much, Corbie, for your words of wisdom and for sharing your stories with us here today. If any of our listeners want to learn more about how they can reach you or work with you, what should they know?
Well, they can't avoid me, Jess. They really can't, because I'm all over the internet. Uh, my
Amazing.
website My website is corbiemitleid.com. You can find me Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, Medium, Patreon. And if you really want to go deep dish on what we've been talking about today, you want to pick up my book, Clean Out Your Life Closet, which is available on Amazon, paperback, Kindle, and an audio book that I read for you myself.
Amazing. And I will have all of that linked below so you can easily find and connect with Corbie. Thank you so much, Corbie, for being here again. And I wish you all the best on the remainder of your journey.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking, subscribing, and letting us know your thoughts in the comments below. It truly means the world to me to hear from you. New episodes will be available every Saturday, both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you would like to learn more about my work as a coach, today's guest, or have a story that you would like to share on the Pivot Point, check out the episode description for more information. Now, time for the legal stuff. This podcast is presented to you solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I may be a professionally certified coach myself, but hosting a podcast is not coaching. This podcast should not be used in substitution of working with a licensed therapist, doctor, coach, or other qualified professionals. Copy that? Amazing. See you on the next episode. Nothing but love, Jess.